Welcome back to the Corporate Mullet Podcast. I'm one half of the show, Miri.
And I'm Sachin.
And we're here today with a very special guest, someone who I met 2 and some change years ago, Rich Baran.
Welcome to the show, Rich. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right.
Rich. So before we get started with anything serious and we introduce you, man, I just got to know off the bat, as me and Sachin are pizza connoisseurs, what is your favorite pizza topping?
Cheddar cheese all the way.
Cheddar cheese. Is there some buffalo chicken with that too? Or
Little buffalo chicken sounds good, or garlic, something like that.
Nice garlic sauce. Yeah. That's the only time I accept cheddar on my pizza. But man, I'm a purist, traditionalist, East Coast, cheese only, plain cheese.
Oh yeah. Okay, I feel it.
Perfect.
What are you, pineapple or something?
Pineapple pepperoni, baby. Pineapple pepperoni. Guess who's from California? Yeah, different kind of sunshine.
At least you didn't go barbecue chicken.
Sunshine.
Barbecue chicken, California pizza kitchen nonsense. Man.
Yeah. But Rich, give the people a quick little intro, a little 1 minute, who you are, what you're about, how long you've been in sales.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I've been in sales more than 10 years. I just got into tech sales back in 2019. Once I got into tech, I've switched through a few different companies and kind of grown from the ranks all the way down from an itty bitty, prospecting BDR to a sales manager position. And I'm currently in like an account executive role, with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've kind of grown up in the school of hard knocks, no college degree. I've been through a lot of like life circumstances and adversity and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit different than most people that are in the tech scene and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of shit. And so because of that, I have a lot of resilience, and I'm very, very focused and passionate about, hitting big numbers and going all in when I do stuff. So yeah, really excited to be here though. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome.
Of course.
And when I first met you too, bro, that was like the energy. He's not kidding. Like, I feel like every time you meet Rich for the first time, you're like, whoa. This is a lot of energy, but in a good way.
For sure.
In the way where it kind of trickles down into you, where you're like, oh, damn, I got to match this, or even kind of get close to it. So
yeah, the energy is always great. Like anytime, the first time you meet Rich, it's like, poof, kick down the door. Hey, I'm Rich, like it's fantastic, but always a good time to have him around. So tell me a little bit about like your transition. You said you recently moved into tech sales, right? So how are you liking it so far? What brought you to tech sales?
Yeah, you know what? Luckily for me, what brought me into tech sales was nothing on TikTok. There was no sales bros trying to teach me how to get into sales or anything like that. I worked for my mother at her law firm and was planning on pursuing a career in law. Without a college degree and being dyslexic, it wasn't the smartest move that I had. And there was this striking moment where my mother was my boss at that point, and she said something to me, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck that. Like, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. And I literally went onto Craigslist, found a really sketchy job doing sales with like coins, gold, silver, stuff like that. And this guy was looking for, at the time, like a marketing guy. And honestly, I had done sales for years prior to that point. And things like, mobile, like Verizon Wireless, door-to-door sales, just making, at the time, $10 an hour just to get, some extra money in my pocket and stuff. But I never saw, sales as an option. I just thought it was for people, suckers that, honestly, like just needed to make needed to make a quick paycheck, right? And so I got to this point in my life where I realized that I couldn't go become a scientist or a lawyer or a doctor or do some of these other things. And to be honest, it was the only thing that I was ever really good at. I looked back at my career history and like I was always good at hitting records. And so it kind of just fell into my lap. And it wasn't something that was overly intentional. I had to make money. I had a kid, and it just took off from there.
We got 2 lawyers on the show now, former potential lawyers
attempted
who chose the better path, right?
Yeah. You never know till you give it a shot. You know what I'm saying? So that is definitely, I feel like Part of it too, though, I feel like you do give off that a little bit of a lawyer vibe in terms of handling objections and being stern and kind of I feel like lawyers do a really good job of being able to control their situations, and I feel like that really translates to the sales world on that end. But kind of walking through your career, I know cold calling has changed, it's evolved, selling itself has evolved. I'd love to kind of learn any trends that you've noticed from when you first started to kind of today in 2025.
Yeah. What were you cold calling like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm going to be curious to get your thoughts on
All
this.
right.
'Cause
Yeah.
I know he wasn't, but
I was not.
I had a couple summer in between sales jobs. Like I probably worked at 30 to 40 companies in my life, like a lot. And you know, like
that's a
during
big
the
number.
summer, just going to a job for 3 days to get either fired or quit because I needed money, like that sort of a thing. And so I've been through COFOS, which is like collections. I've done all kinds of random stuff when I was a lot younger that I don't even know if that stuff exists anymore. But I really cut my teeth in sales that way. And cold calling, when I first started in cold calling, they literally they'd sit you down at a desk with like 60 people in a room selling like PCI credit card stuff or something. And I remember one of these places we worked at, they gave you a script, they put it on the counter, literally like Wolf of Wall Street type of feeling. Nobody has a nice car outside, nobody's doing well. But at the same time, there's somebody in the room next door that's getting fitted by a haberdasher or whatever those are called.
Yeah.
And so they're like, hey, that could be you. And I'm just like, what? No, something's not adding up here.
Something's not matching
and
here.
so they said, yeah, your first 3 days, you're a contractor. We're not W-2ing you. If you can't make it, you're out.
Wow.
They put a literal phone in front of your desk. They give you a piece of paper and a pencil.
Damn.
And then they give you a list. And, you call down the list and you read off the script and you, in that case, pray that it works. So when cold calling started for me, it was genuinely old school. And so I learned worth calling during a time when I hated it and I didn't think that it was worth anything.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that I kind of started in the same boat, right? When I was at I think we talked about it before, that weird marketing company.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yep.
literally exactly what you described. I had a binder dropped on my desk. First page was welcome to this horrible position. But then it was basically your script and then what your customer profile is. And then we had some customer lists that they provided. And then the rest of it, literally, they were like, just go on Yelp, put in the name of the town, and just call down the list to every small business there. And the amount of bullshit you have to sit through is insane. But it built... I've never had camaraderie like that with other sales teams, though. Like me and that guy sitting there in the pit, just dialing nonstop, not even really knowing what we were selling. There's nothing.
No
day
sales
one, you're a
process.
1099, you're a contractor. Here's a binder. What do we do when we close the deal? Oh, just yell, let us know. Oh, okay, cool. 100%. But yeah, it's changed a lot since then. Although there are still some shops that run their BDR teams like that, which grow up. But yeah, I mean, so what have you seen as like the biggest shift in the last 10 years since you started cold calling?
I worked at a company. My first tech role was at a company not to be named that is very well known, and it was, for lack of a better term, like a call mill. So they give you, they have leads, they use Salesforce, they do the things that you do when you're trying to build a business. And this is a more than $1 billion business. But, that was when I really got into heavy cold calling. I remember there was a day when I went from knowing how to make 40 dials a day to 100. Wow. And those are two different things. If you're trying to hit 100 calls, when you're having actual good conversations, not like low quality leads when you're calling from Google Maps, but like actual leads, $100 in a day is pretty heavy. And the cold call from that, versus what it was 10 years ago is immensely different. I would say, number one, the internet has changed everything, not just the leads, not just how much people know, but even the cell phone device itself. People can look at the number that's calling them. They can answer with assistive technology like Bluetooth. They can answer the phone when they're doing other things. I would say, even honestly, in some cases, cold calls got easier in the last 10 years for a couple reasons, and in other ways maybe a little bit harder. I'd be curious at your thoughts.
I would say from my perspective, I kind of agree that the pathways to connect with someone on, let's say, a cold call or cold outreach, there's more paths now, right? That's made it a little bit simpler for that cold outreach. Cold calling, I don't know if I would say it's gotten easier. Maybe like for at least my industry, right? It's definitely more like, hey, why are you calling me? Just send me an email. I'm not answering your call. But when you get that person to answer, you have such a better connection with them that off of a cold email, you'll barely ever get a deal. Yep. But off of the cold call, you'll likely get a discovery, a further conversation, or at least you'll have the opportunity to build a relationship. So I think it's gotten more challenging, but more important also. I think numbers matter a little bit more now than maybe when I started, because I would focus on, hey, let me focus really on finding out exactly everything I need to know about this account, who the key stakeholders are. I'll give them a call, get a hold of them, and be prepared for it. And in my first like post-marketing agency thing, my first real BDR gig, I was making maybe 3 to 5 calls a day, just heavily focused on getting all the information and having an effective call. Now it's like, you really do need to pick up the numbers, especially post-COVID with remote work. People don't want to answer their cell phone. So answer rates are definitely lower. People are less receptive. I think people forgot their manners. Listen to your mom in the back of your head. Be nice. For sure. It's not that hard. But in that perspective, I think it's a little bit harder, where the cold call is more looked upon as like an inconvenience during the day, although it always was. But when you're calling the work phone, then you're at work. Really, is it an inconvenience? But now your work phone is routed to your cell phone. Your phone's ringing while you're making breakfast or something. You're going to be annoyed at whoever's calling you. So from that perspective, maybe it's gotten a little harder, but we have all the tools in the world now to help out with that. And I think it still holds its importance.
And on that note, do you think AI is either helping or assisting on that end, or more so hindering? I know we're getting spammed sometimes 3 or 4 times by the same number with, just different area codes. Or how do you guys perceive that?
Yeah, I can kick that off on the AI bit. I mean, I think AI has been great for sales, right? Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are worried that, AI is coming for my job. If you're worried, you got bigger problems, honestly. Pick up your numbers, because it's not there yet where it can really take your job. And we should look at it as a tool that can help kind of refine our messaging, refine our approaches, and then also act as like almost a coach while you're selling, right? Not all of us will have access to a manager 24/7 or a mentor or someone to give you that feedback. And AI really helps fill that gap too in coaching, mentoring, and refining your style, especially when you're newer in sales. But also just for general admin tasks and like, the little things that aren't revenue generating tasks, a lot of it you can automate with AI or simplify with AI, like organizing your notes and sending out your meeting minutes or writing up agendas, things like that, right? Where it does help. So I think just organizations need to have an AI strategy instead of just letting all salespeople run wild and go use whatever separate tools they want, True. But having like a good AI strategy of how this is how this can help our sales team is like step one. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's good, but people either depend on it too much or they're too scared of it. Just find the middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I think of that stuff, I think of access to information. And I think if you look at the last 30, 25 years, think back to the year 2000, like how many, I don't know how we could quantify it, but like how many gigabytes of information do you think the average human being had before Google? Before Google, right? So when they couldn't Google search and they had to go get a phone book or whatever it is that they were doing back then, they actually had to go to the library, right?
Yeah.
Like that. So just, think about that number. We don't have to know what it is. And then think about how much information do we have today? So just looking back, like I think customers, prospects, human beings have more information. And I think I tend to find that the more and more information that the buyer has, they're more or less trying to avoid making a mistake more than they are trying to make a good purchase, which are kind of the same thing. And so point. I think, artificial intelligence, not to be limited just to large language models, are probably just amplifying that. And so I would think that I don't know what the shift will be, but I think people are going to have so much information that it seems like questioning the validity of some of that stuff is becoming true. And like at that point, once again, human relationships, authenticity, until the AI tech is so good that you can't tell the difference. I think for the next 5 to 10 years, we're in a place where this is easier to digest than it will be, after that.
Yeah. I mean, the tech is evolving really quickly, but I think we're still all right. The world's always going to need salespeople.
Yeah.
But before we move on, quick question for you guys, since we're talking about cold calling. I got called out for this recently. If you're trying to like mime a phone, what hand gesture do you use? Like, oh, I'm about to call someone.
Like this, right?
Dude, I just asked my daughter this and she goes like this.
Exactly. They're like,
That's so weird.
I can't do it. I'm never gonna get over it. You guys need flip phones.
because
like, it's a
wow.
Have you ever used a rotary phone? A rotary phone?
no. Well, I mean, I played with one, but like I haven't really like.
You guys have never made a phone call on a rotary phone?
I haven't had one.
At the
I've used it in,
museum.
like, India,
at the museum, but I've never like actually used
not
it.
anytime recently for sure.
I used to make cold calls with one.
No way.
Could you imagine? I messed that up.
It's a good home defense weapon too.
It's like a bank
Freaking
ball.
brick right
Clock
there.
somebody with those. Yeah.
Damn, dude, we're old.
We got Rich sitting there with the rotary phone, the Rolodex going
Dude,
and everything, you
yeah,
know? Got to
dude.
flip through the pages.
Damn, you gotta wear like a little finger protector or
You
something.
would get ink on your fingers. And I'm
Jesus
left-handed, so
Christ.
it would rub off on the paper.
Bleed
and-
through.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude.
man.
Wow.
But yeah, on that note of trends too, something else that I've noticed a lot on LinkedIn really is people advocating for reps to build their own brand. How much do you guys value that in a rep? Say, put your manager hats on, which I know, two of you have influences on hiring decisions. Would you prefer bringing in a rep that already has a network, or would you prefer someone who isn't as well known in the industry?
Yeah, I can kick that off. I think it's situational, right? Like in my situation, like my current role, I was brought in specifically because of my experience, my network, like my book of business in that vertical, right? Because it was a new entry point for them. They didn't have a lot of experience in that area. So they brought me in to kind of help build that out and grow it.
Yeah.
So in situations like that, I think it's essential that you have to have some sort of recognition or knowledge of the industry, and the industry needs to be aware of you too. You have to have contacts and solid relationships there. Otherwise, it's very tough to get them to switch vendors and trust a brand that they've never heard of. Even if it's not a small company, they've never sold to that industry.
Yep.
So in that scenario, I think it's essential.
Yep.
For most sales gigs, though, I mean, it really depends, right? If you're coming in for like strategic deals, yes, you need to have those relationships. But if you're coming in to just grow a vertical, it helps, but is it necessary? No, I think it's more like your sales style, your skill set is more important at that phase. If there is like an established vertical and you have those guardrails to tell you who the buyer is, how this product is being sold right now, what's working, what's not, you can learn. And you learn very fast.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say it's situational like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was thinking like, if you ask me, for a race, what's the best race car? And it's like, well, what's the race that we're running? And so I think it depends on the culture of the company. I think it depends on the size and scope of the role, what the leadership is trying to attain. I've been in roles where, like I said, a call mill, they're trying to work you. You have a number that is an ROI factor, and whether you're there or another human body is there, like they just need you, right? Yep. There are other roles I've been in where they genuinely care. The role that we're at right now, it's impressive what they're doing from the leadership standpoint, that they really care about the culture and things like that. So I think that depends. The other thing is, as a prior manager, like how your leadership, what they care about is very important. If they don't want you to do that stuff, like you shouldn't be doing it. And if they do, like you should. And that's if you want to either keep your job or grow in the role. I think that's very relevant. But I think it just depends.
Okay. Cool. Well, pivoting us to something a little bit more personal, I guess. I know myself and Sachin covered it in a earlier episode, but Rich, if you don't mind, kind of balancing, how do you balance this tech sales career? I know it can be financially rewarding, so a lot more money to spend, more luxurious things, more luxurious outings. How do you balance that, like when you have success and then a personal life? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's funny because a lot of my older friends that I had to kind of cut loose, once I started to see a lot of success, not just naysayers, but just people that didn't believe in what I did. They didn't believe in the mission. They didn't think. I had a lot of people straight up tell me like, you think money is more important than it is, or I don't care about money, I care about people. And it sounds good, right? But until you understand that all humans have to pay bills, the good ones and the bad ones, and the nice people and the mean people all have bills to pay.
Yeah.
Like if that weren't a reality, then I would have a different position. To answer your question, like even though I care about money a lot, I'm not driven by it per se.
Right.
I love it because I know that it's going to help meet the needs to get me where I need to be. I have a daughter, things like that. But it's not the driving force in my life. I'd say just with all the adversity that I've been through, which is like crazy shit, I really care about taking care of myself. So I wear nicer clothes, different things, not because I'm out here to, swag out in front of people. And I've actually had a lot of people make comments like, why are you wearing all that gear? Those are nice shoes. Like I've had bosses and employees like asking me like, oh, another pair of Jordans, huh? But I don't do that stuff because I'm out here stunting and I'm trying to look good. I feel good about myself, and I really care because of the things I've been through. I care about taking care of and loving myself. Yeah. So luxury and things like that for me is more about respect to myself. Yep. But I definitely prioritize my finances, read into that stuff. And I think it's to get to where I've got, you have to be balanced in your approach and really be conscientious about stuff. But there's tons I don't know.
And it's crazy because I feel like sales is the only profession where you really have young people making a ridiculous amount of money.
Have you seen what software engineers make right out of college, bro?
No, right. But they're more, it's not like, it's more introverted, right? You have your setup, you have that. Yeah. Whereas sales is like, hey man, it's a Wednesday, who wants to go grab a drink? Like, fuck it, it's payday. Like, let's go do it, whatever. It's just a bunch of like young people who aren't like, I don't want to say like technologically intelligent, because there are a lot of us that are. I'm not including myself in that. But like just a lot of young people who are very outgoing, social, and it's just like it's easy to mess up your financial book, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. There's pitfalls everywhere in sales career where you can accidentally go broke, even if you're one of the top reps.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you just gotta.
It's kind of like being a celebrity that gets that big contract, like Adrian Peterson or something like that. But I think you touch on a good point of like, I never really put two and two together, at least in my first sales role, of like, I should be noticing what those above me actually are wearing or are driving. And it's not a flexing. It's just how much wiggle room do I have for my own personal decisions? Like, do I want to drive a Ford 10 years from now? No offense to Ford owners. Or do I want to drive a Benz, a BMW, a Lamborghini, a Porsche? So it's good to kind of see your leadership, not flexing, but more so like the quality of life and goods that they're buying.
Yeah, I think it speaks a lot to how you feel about yourself. Yep. And I think it's really important, especially with men. Self-love is like a thing. It sounds a little bit, foo-foo or something like that, but it's an important concept, because for you to have confidence, you have to genuinely and authentically believe in who you are and like believe in yourself. And so I just see it as an extension of that. I really do.
Yeah. It's kind of like what we were talking about, like how we reward ourselves too. And like I brought up, I like watches, right? Yep. So if there's a tough sales meeting or something, you're in the middle of it, you don't know, and then you look down and you're like, I rewarded myself with this. I was able to do this in the past. I'm not new to this. I can figure it out. Kind of brings you back to speed, and things like that definitely help. Because it reminds you like, hey, I can do this, because salespeople are full of imposter syndrome. Like, oh my God, I think that's the number one most common issue with salespeople is imposter syndrome, especially in tech sales. Because like, what am I doing here?
A lot of low points for sure. Yeah.
But believe in yourself. You didn't get there off of BS. Well, 99%, but.
And that's the thing, dude. I feel like you run across a lot of young reps who, I want it bad. I want what you have. I wish I had a Benz. Well, then pick up the phone. You know what I mean? Dial, spend that extra hour. Like when it's time to go, it's time to go, And I feel like a lot of people don't see that, especially early on. They just want the success, but they don't know the hard work that happened behind the scenes. So, again, like how
one's paying attention until you're winning, right?
Exactly. So. No, I swear to God, I promise you have some young reps coming up to you and be like, whoa, you had it easy. I'm like, maybe, but like I still had challenges when I was kind of going through it. Just like I wasn't calling off a rotary phone, you know what I mean? I had Google or whatever on that end. But it's hard work. But again, I feel like your leadership, like you guys have said already, plays a big role in the level of support you get. Like, how are you being motivated? Not just, someone yelling at you. So
it's a good point.
Yeah. overall, Sachin, like, what do you think about doing a little rapid fire session for Rich here?
All right, let's do it. Kick us off.
You ready for a rapid hot seat?
Let's do
This
it.
is our hot seat segment, Rich.
Let's do it.
I don't know if you want to scroll on your end too, so you can ask the next one. But
Oh, yeah.
all right, Rich. First thing that comes to mind when you hear these questions, we'll put it a 30, 45-second cap here. It's a new segment we're introducing to Corporate Mullets, the hot seat for all of our interviewees. So here we go. I think we did this with Alan, though. But anyways, here we go. Rich, question number 1. What's the most unconventional sales tactic you used that worked?
If you get really good at it, pattern interrupt. If you throw people off, I know sometimes when people listen to me do calls and stuff, it gets some laughs and things like that. But pattern interrupt, when you really get good at it, can add some shock value and it can really work well.
Perfect.
Great. Next question up. Share a memorable success story from your career.
I went at one of the companies that I worked for into the CEO's office, and I told them that I was going to hit 50 closes, which at that time for that company was not only a record, but seemed impossible. And I remember the look on their faces when not only did they tell me that that was impossible and laughed me out of the room, not disrespectfully, just like they genuinely thought that I was like just talking crazy. But when I hit 39, which was still like crazy, they were off the walls. And that's one of the more proud moments that I had in success too.
That's what I'm talking about. That's a win. Yeah. Even your leadership's doubting you. You're like, nope, I'm going to get it done. No, that's a good one.
Yep. What's a common myth about tech sales you'd like to debunk? We all make $1 million, right?
I think there's two things that I would like to point out, even though you're asking for one. One of them is not everybody is cut out for sales. And it's not always because you can't talk to people or because you can't figure it out. You got to be able to go through the lows and get punched in the face proverbially and stuff like that. But I would say the other one that was on my mind was there isn't just one way to skin a cat. Like you can do cold outreach through email. You can do tech sales this way. There's e-commerce. There's so many different ways that you can get into it that all you have to do is figure out what the end goal is. And there's 100 ways to get there.
That is fantastic bit of advice for anyone out there. There's always a way in. Just start researching, figure out, maybe start where you have some knowledge and expertise and start seeing what products there are around that expertise. Start applying there. So you're going in with some knowledge, but there's always a good starting point. There's a lot of entry points, and yeah, never dismiss an opportunity.
But I want to come in and make 6 figures.
Pick up the phone.
I think life is a series of choices of what are you willing to do for what you want.
Exactly.
And if you're willing to give, like, I think a lot of people look at 6 figures. In fact, I literally just had somebody ask me for a job recommendation or a referral. And they said, like, I was like, hey, what's your goal? What do you want to do? And she was like, I want to hit, 100K. And I thought in my head, like, that sounds good, but are you willing to get up at 6 a.m. every single day and get it? Are
done.
You willing to go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night and give up the nights at the bar? Are you willing to do the things that people don't want to do to have the results that they don't get? And I think most people don't really think about that part, and they just want the 100K, and 2 and 2 won't work together unless you do both. So
that's a bar, bro. That's a bar first and foremost. Yeah. And I wonder who was that young kid asking that question to some people here at the table.
Tell me more. All right, tell me more.
You want the next?
No, I mean, like, I agree. I think, like, a lot of people, they see it as like an easy path, right? But it's not easy work. If it was, then everybody would be super successful. Yep. One thing I do want to add in is I think the people that are the most successful from that BDR path to AE to whatever your career may hold are the ones that come from a background of really like, hey, this is it, right? It's like either you can do this job and you make the money you need, or you can't pay the bills. That external pressure and factor has been a big motivator for a lot of people, right? Even when I came into sales, like I couldn't eat anything but rice-a-roni. I'm drowning in debt. And like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And that mindset, I'm like, hey, I need to pay the bills, so I'm not putting down the phones until I make enough commission to pay my rent, Yep. So like, I think that external driving factor also plays a big part for a lot of very successful salespeople, which is why you'll see people from all sorts of backgrounds just jumping into sales. Because when you need that money, when you need to hit that target, you're going to get it done. So yeah, just for anyone who's trying to get into sales, doesn't mean go get yourself into debt in order to get motivated.
to get a good job,
but
right?
just come in with some motivator, come in with some goal that you think about every day, something that's just as important to you. And yeah, just go for it. Just go for it, because what was the statistic we mentioned last time? Only 40% of salespeople hit quota.
Yep.
Yeah.
On average,
So be one of that 40%. There's a ton of people that aren't, that still have years long careers. So don't get worried that it's not for you. Give it a shot if you're even mildly interested, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think on that note, before you continue, I was also going to say, like, if you don't know that it's a fuck yes, and it could be still a fuck no, like, don't get in there.
Yeah.
Like, we see people get into tech sales and they're miserable. They're scared. They have the imposter syndrome to the max. And they're not in a position where they can mentally get out of that the whirlwind of it. And it's just so hard to see people that, you know, if you are not willing to do anything that it takes, at some point, you are not going to make it through to get that 40%. And I think that's why.
No, that's a good point. It is, although there's a lot of us and only 40% hit quota and we have all those stats, it is an extremely competitive environment. Which some people maybe transitioning careers are not, you know, used to. You know, so especially I know some folks that have come over and they're just not used to, like, hey, like, this is your friend, but they will also eat your lunch. You know, like, you have to get used to that. And it's also a company culture thing, but you have to be ready for more of a competitive nature that you see in sales that you don't necessarily see in technical roles and things like that across the board. But that doesn't mean there isn't camaraderie. Usually salespeople's best friends are salespeople.
100%. We can spot each other from a mile away.
Exactly. Yep.
For sure.
Awesome.
But I think we're on to our last question.
Yeah.
In the rapid fire round. So beyond work, how do you spend your time? What are like your favorite hobbies or passions? And like, what do you like to do in your off time?
Yeah. I would say, like, I'm obsessed with growth. You know, I do a couple things, play piano a little bit, spend a lot of time.
That was shocking.
Right?
That was shocking. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I don't share it with a lot of people. I've learned that things that are sacred to you, you keep close to your chest. But I think the other thing is, like, I have a daughter, so I obviously dedicate a ton of time, enjoy spending, watching her grow, spending a lot of time thinking about how to think. You know, to become better and grow, you have to really consider, you know, not just your mindset and emotional state, but try to get wiser through other people's mistakes. I've made enough on my own that I try to avoid, you know, the big ones, and do a lot of contemplation and stuff. But yeah, a little bit of music, a little travel here and there, things like that. But I wouldn't say anything stands out because I'm constantly trying to grow.
That's awesome, man.
And his Audible list is good too.
Yeah,
he has like 5-7 books that he's like listening to right now, which is cool.
That was just paid one.
On the music though, just curious, do you use it as like a way to relax?
Yeah, I got kicked out of piano. I've been kicked out of everything. I got kicked out of piano lessons when I was a kid. I've never been a rule follower.
Disruptor from the get-go.
Yeah,
Move fast, break things. Literally.
I got kicked out of the army. I got kicked out of elementary school. I got kicked out of pretty much anything that I've ever done.
But not sales, baby.
And never did I know that was a strength, you know, until now. But yeah, when I was in piano, I got kicked out, and so I had to learn how to watch my brother play the piano, and then I would sneak up at night and I would learn to play by ear because I would just hear him play the song. And then, so anyway, I use it as a tool for emotional balance and things like that, and I still just play to feel good.
I was asking because like I'm the same way. I love to play instruments. I've always played instruments like guitar, saxophone, flute, like a whole bunch of random stuff, French horn, but it's really interesting that you said you learned from just listening and learning, because I did the same. I can't read sheet music for shit. I can't read music at all, but like I learned from listening and then just making the sounds and mimicking it. But it's a great way to interesting. Learn. Yeah, it's an interesting way, because then I don't know, maybe I'm drawing some conclusions that I shouldn't be. But like I also learned, I learned my initial cold calling from hearing people cold call, hearing their cadence, and then I'm usually a fast talker and my words melt together, and you know I throw in a lot of ums and uhs and all that stuff. But when I'm cold calling, I feel like I'm playing an instrument because I heard it that way, and that's like my cadence, my tone, everything kind of changes when it's on a sales call. So yeah, interesting. Maybe we'll dig into that later. Do a little psyche eval.
That's a book.
We'll do a little psyche eval. Oh, the rain is wild.
That sounded like a tree fell.
Yeah, I got a tree next to
my car got hit by a tree. Yeah.
No
Insurance,
trees fell.
baby.
Oh, man, oh, man.
Yeah, that's
They're supposed to come trim that oak tree in a few days, so hopefully it's still up
They
there.
ain't gonna charge you as much now.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right?
Damn. All right.
Oh, it looks like the job's done.
Yeah. Hey, we did it ourselves. You guys don't have to. That's funny.
And then we got bad weather in California for once. But last question. This is corporate mullet standard. If you could splurge on one luxury item or experience, what would it be?
That's a really good question. I would say if I was gonna splurge on one item, I would probably buy something really, really strange, like some kind of a gadget or some kind of like something with history. I went to some store called Zanzibar out here in California. Have you guys seen that?
No,
in
I haven't heard
Sacramento?
of it.
Oh, dude, you guys have to go.
Fire?
No joke. Like, probably your wives will love it more than anything else. It's incredible.
Leave the wallet at home.
Yeah, they're gonna
We're
come back
talking
and
about
get
one
it.
luxury purchase.
Yeah, they're gonna come back and get it. It's these two people that collected like very curated goods by hand from around the world.
Wow.
And each section of the store is thousands of dollars worth of really interesting stuff. It's really amazing, but probably something that I can just remind myself that, I appreciate the finer things in life. I couldn't say that it would be a watch or a car because I'm gonna get those things anyway.
Oh, damn, that's a good answer.
That's a good one. I like it.
And what do
I
you
need to check out that store though.
And-
Zanzibar.
Yeah, you gotta check it out.
Oh,
It's
100%. And let the good people know what you're whipping these days. Since, we have a Benz, we have a Porsche. Well, we
Yeah.
have Benz and a Porsche. But
I had to make a smart decision, right? So I'm trying to figure out gas mileage, other things, but I want to feel good about myself. So I got a Lexus IS 200, which is the base model of that, but it is an F Sport. So it's a little
Nice.
sporty, some red leather seats, but
and you be whipping that thing.
I'm very proud of it. Yeah, I like this goes in for sure.
Because I keep up.
No, that's one car. I've said it before. I'll say it again. That thing ages like fine wine. That thing will last forever and it looks great. I'm a big fan of the Lexus IS, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're sexy.
Japanese know what they're doing, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you survived the hot seat. Good on you, bro.
Cool.
Last topic of the day. Where do you see tech sales heading? Is AI robots going to replace us? I know we kind of touched on it a bit. Do you think the industry will even survive? Should we be specializing and becoming engineers, or what's up? What's your guys'
I'm
future?
curious about you first.
I have no crystal ball, but unless there's literally no option available, I'm going to be in sales. If it's not tech, I'll go into something else, right?
And then real quick for context, just because if you guys haven't seen, Salesforce replaced 1,000 workers with their AI sales team. So that's kind of why we're bringing this up here towards the end.
We'll always see this hype cycles, right? We'll see how well that works out for them. And like that Salesforce where really half their salespeople, I'm sorry if you work for Salesforce, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but like it's kind of like
I
order.
do. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's like it's order taking, right? Everyone knows what Salesforce is. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows what it's good at, what it's not good at. In certain situations, you don't really have a choice. So Salesforce is not the most difficult thing to sell. But when you're talking about selling complex, multi-commercial model deals for across various teams and like a lot of custom work and things like that, AI is just not there yet. And again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know when it's going to get there, when it can potentially do that. I think it will be able to do that, but I think we're going to be good for a while with our jobs, because when they get that good, other people are in trouble too. What are we all going to do for work, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be something else. There'll be something else, but I like to not worry about all that stuff. I'm like, when it's more of a threat, I will worry about it. But where I see tech sales going now is basically almost like paring back down to going back more towards sales, right? Because we got oversaturated with a bunch of people coming in from every industry, flooding the sales marketplace. And now we have most people are barely hitting quota. Companies are trying to rejig their sales teams and think it's a tooling issue and stuff. But no, I think that we're just oversaturated with a lot of salespeople that aren't serious about the career as a career. Like we talked about, like Rich brought up, like unless, if it's not a fuck yes, you're going to sit somewhere in the middle of the pack at best, right?
Exactly.
So like where we have a lot of those sellers in the market right now. And I think those are the guys that should be worried, because a lot of the stuff that they're doing, which is using as, standard email template and blasting it to everyone, no personalization, no thought behind the campaigns, no human connection there except script reading.
Yep.
That's the kind of sales that I think is most at risk for being replaced. So I think we're going to kind of go back towards building those human connections, going back to more in-person meetings and engagements, and really paring it down to the serious career pros that really want to do this as well. Because I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that, but I do think it is a pretty saturated field right now where we have a lot of idle salespeople.
Yeah, I mean, just from a lot of the content I'm seeing on, not everyone. There's a lot of great people on LinkedIn, but some people who are like kind of, they hear the advice. You should just post on LinkedIn, give your advice. Not everyone needs a mic, and you guys can say the same thing about us. But I feel like it is oversaturated. People think it's an easy way to make money, but they really don't see like the day to day. If you glorify every profession, you're only going to see the best parts. So I think that applies to sales. So I think, like you said, as long as there's sales specialists, not sales pros, not sales bros, I think like you said, there always will be a need for someone to sell. So at least until AI gets really good.
Yeah. And the way that I thought about this question is I think it's a numbers answer. Like when you think about it doesn't matter what product that you're selling, call it a widget. And let's just say that widget has a 10-day sales cycle. Within that 10 days, the process of selling requires going through that process from the prospecting, whether you're taking it from an MQL or a cold lead or whatever you're getting it from, moving it all the way through down the pipe to close. All of those processes, moving it through that pipeline is getting shortened. And because of that sales time, when you think of like a company that has 1,000 people, when you cut out 7% of the sales process, i.e. if you cut out 7% of the 10-day cycle, you need 7% less people to do that work. So I think ultimately it's a numbers game. And I love the competitive nature of it. Yeah. I think it's a test to every salesperson. Come and get me. Come and get me if you think you're going to take my job and beat me at sales. But I think it's a great test, and I think it'll help trim some of the fat, so to speak, with the sales industry. But the funny thing is about AI and tech is we know what we know, but we certainly don't know what we don't.
We don't have a crystal ball, right? I mean, sure, people are trying to come for our jobs, but what's new?
Yeah. And it just always reminds me of the episode on The Office when the Dunder Mifflin gets that bot that sells online, and Dwight is like selling against it, and like just for the day he beats it. But like I feel like that's kind of like the race we're in. I mean, it's not going to.
It's the same situation over and over again, right? When the internet came out, there was a completely brand new industry coming out. It's like, all right, who's going to buy encyclopedias anymore? Encyclopedia salespeople all went somewhere, hopefully, So there's always going to be shifts. Just don't be a Luddite and adapt and learn and be ready for whatever comes next. It might not be tech, right? I think we've always said that tech sales is not the only sales path. There's plenty of people in chemical and petrochemicals, in manufacturing, industrials. There's a ton of money out there. So, and I think honestly, right now, almost all of these AI stuff is targeted at tech sales. Yeah. Right. And now we're seeing this is a little bit off topic, but this is it's been on the back of my mind, but you're seeing a lot more of like these pop-up BDR shops, right? Like, hey, you only pay when you book, when you sell a deal or when you book and then anyone can sign up. There's few that are really good where they vet the salespeople. They need to be experienced, right? For example, like just found out about Glen Coco recently. They actually vet their salespeople to start their campaigns. So like, stuff like that is good, but there's a lot where they're not vetting. You just go in and sign up as whoever, and then you sign up for a campaign and then don't do anything. Now you're a salesperson.
There you go.
Right? So to me, in the back of my head, it's always been like, oh my God, this feels like when everyone found out about drop shipping.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there's no cost to set up. They're like, be your own business owner and your entrepreneur, become a sales guy. And like these guys have no training, nothing, and they're just going at it. So like
I can persuade people.
it's gonna change. It's gonna change, and we have to keep our eyes open for what's coming. And those guys aren't gonna know what to look out for. They're I would say they're industry adjacent. Although some of them are killers, but I mean you have open sign up for anyone, and you tell them, hey, you can make $10,000 a month by just picking up the phone. You're going to have everyone sign up. You're going to say you have a sales force 20,000 strong, but maybe 10 of them are actually dialing.
Yep.
You know?
On that note, Rich, any advice you have to people trying to enter the tech market?
In sales?
Yep.
Okay. Advice.
So if someone came up to you, Rich, I'm really thinking about becoming, a BDR, for example, in tech sales. What advice would you give me?
If I tell you not to do it because it's the scariest thing in the world and you're willing to go after it anyway, you're in. If you're anybody else and you get scared by me telling you how challenging it is or how it's not going to work or all the fears that you could have in your world and that makes you bite your fingernails and run for the hills, then go the other way. It's rewarding, but it's not for everybody. But sales is a great way if you want to start a business, if you want to learn more about marketing and just how business runs, things like that. I think it's a great place to start. It's also a great place to finish. If you need a quick couple bucks, for the next couple years to get over some financial stuff or whatever you got going on, it can be very lucrative, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
I like that you brought up the entrepreneurship bit. We've always said that sales is a pathway to entrepreneurship. I've always liked to look at it as almost like a paid MBA. Sure. Like you get access to so much information and so many people across these really interesting, cool organizations, and you see what really goes into building a business and what drives growth forward. So it's a great starting point. You'll see a lot of entrepreneurs are former salespeople or have some sales experience. And also, if you're starting a business, you're that company's first salesperson, whether you like it or not.
Right.
So,
well, I think the other thing is if you even consider that you want to start a business in something, go sell that product for somebody else on their W-2.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn real quick if that's for you or, what the challenges are, because at the end of the day, go to market, which is that place in the middle where the customers and the buyers meet the sellers. Mm-hmm. That's always going to truly determine. I'll never forget, like there's entrepreneurs out there that they love toy trains and building them and painting models and stuff. And then they'll go buy all this stuff. And then I literally knew this guy up in Vancouver, Washington, where I'm from. He opened up a toy train store in the middle of the mall. There's no demand for that. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't do it, but he ended up running an eBay shop in the back. And so, when you think of entrepreneurship, sales is a really good way to pressure test if a product is viable, if there's demand for it. And so I think it's a really good avenue.
Definitely. And if you can get a job in a similar field that you want, or selling into similar companies that you want to sell into with your business, that is a invaluable experience, learning on someone else's dime and really finding all the pitfalls and really defining your ICP before you just kind of go for it. So I really like that you brought that up. That's something that we've always said, that this is a pathway to entrepreneurship if you treat it that way.
Yeah. And then, me, I'm the youngest experienced one here. So I always say, find mentors. These are my mentors. So it's always good to see the insights of those who have been in it, who have done it. And then while you experience your own, you can experience, like when you're going through failures and things like that, know how to pick yourself back up. If it's a big hill, if it's a small hill, and just learn, it's kind of like a cheat code to the world. So that's my advice. So that brings us to the end here today. Rich, it was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you, Rich? Do you do anything on media?
You might be able to find me on LinkedIn, but you should probably be reading the news in tech and entrepreneurship in the next couple of years. I'll be doing some quiet work behind closed doors. But yeah, you can send me an email, and I have an email. It's richardlbaran@gmail.com. If you have any inquiries and stuff, always happy to give support. Anybody trying to break into tech, have questions, things like that. I'm always happy to give any advice that I can.
We'll put it in the description below if you guys want to reach out. And I think key takeaways for today with our time with Rich, I think embrace fear, love the challenge.
Yeah, that's a good high energy.
Kick in the door, guys.
What's that Rich's favorite quote? I have BDRs coming up to me. What's up with him and the yeehaw? That's just Rich, bro.
Let's get it.
I love it, though.
I had somebody tell me once, big time players make big time plays, big time games.
And I think we can end on that quote there.
No. His favorite quote. You got to drop your bar. Readers.
Oh, readers are leaders and earners are learners.
Oh,
Let's go. Thank
There
you.
we go. We got 2 gems right there at the end of the show. We're going to have to maybe split that up. You know, we can't drop all the knowledge in one episode here.
awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Follow, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, email Rich, email Satchin, whoever. See you next time.
Peace.
Take care.